Excellent. According to Einstein, space and time are not separate. I don't really understand it, but I think he's saying that time is the fourth dimension of space. He calls it the space time continuum. Yes, what you perceive externally as space and time are ultimately illusionary, but they contain a core of truth. They are two essential attributes of God, infinity and eternity, perceived as if they had an external existence outside you. Within you, both space and time have an inner equivalent that reveals their true nature as well as your own. Whereas space is the still infinitely deep realm of no mind, the inner equivalent of time is presence, awareness of the eternal now. Remember that there is no distinction between them. When space and time are realized within as the unmanifested, no mind and presence, external space and time continue to exist for you, but they become much less important. The world too continues to exist for you, but it will not bind you anymore. Hence, the ultimate purpose of the world lies not within the world, but in transcendence of the world. Just as you would not be conscious of space if there were no objects in space, the world is needed for the unmanifested to be realized. You may have heard the Buddhist saying, if there were no illusion, there would be no enlightenment. If through the world and ultimately through you, that the unmanifested knows itself, you are here to enable the divine purpose of the universe to unfold. That is how important you are. So the equivalent of the time and space in this manifested world, what we see, or what, when we refer to as space around us, whatever is outside of us, and the time has an inner equivalent. So the space outside us has an inner equivalent, which is the inner space inside, that is the inner body. And the time outside has an inner equivalent, which is the presence. So now, what is the journey of life, or the journey of the soul, is to realize that space and time inside of us. So whatever is outside in the manifested form world, where everything has a form, is an illusion created so that everybody needs to find a way to go inside and see that space and time जो उसके इक्विवेलेंट, जो आउटसाइड स्पेस के इक्विवेलेंट है इन द अनमैनिफेस्टेड, इन द फॉर्मलेस स्टेट, and then connect with that source inside of you. So this outer thing is all an illusion created so that, it's like a puzzle which is created for everybody, so that everybody gets so allured with all the manifested forms that, whatever is there outside of us. But the true journey, the true purpose of the soul, or the soul's purpose, is actually to make that connection inside. It's about inner realization, a journey inside of us into that inner space, that inner body, and that presence inside of us. So this is all nothing but a big puzzle जिसमें हर बंदा manifested form में गुम जाता है and gets illusionized with whatever is happening outside, and forgets the true purpose of going inside. So in this spiritual journey, or this journey of spiritual enlightenment, There is nothing that you need to earn or nothing that you need to gain. हमें कुछ मिलने वाला नहीं है. You know, a lot of people have this myth कि spiritual enlightenment में हमें peace मिलेगा, हमें ये मिलेगा. आपको एक realization मिलेगी of what is already inside you. So there is nothing new. It is just that we are removing all the layers inside so that we are able to connect with that true self of ours, connect to that true source which is running this entire show. And rather than being bothered about what is there in the unmanifested, in the form world, which is outside the eyes. That's why they say these eyes, two eyes you have, are for the outside, whereas your inner eye is your third eye, which is, you know, right between your two eyes, which has a vision inside of us. So it's a realization, it's a journey inside through our third eye in order to realize who we truly are, in order to realize our connection with the true source, and in order to realize and experience the concept of oneness of life in the unmanifested, not the manifested. Manifested is always an illusion which is going on outside. That's why the ego and the mind, they have a lot of pleasure in the manifested world, और वहीं पे वो घुमाते रहते हैं, because that's their job and they love it. But in the unmanifested, there is no form, you know, there is no object inside in which, you know, it has a form. So how will the mind or the egoic mind, you know, make a connection? Not possible. That's why the mind has to be still, because अंदर उसका कोई काम ही नहीं है. Because अंदर की journey is a realization of who we truly are. Is as simple and as complicated as it can be. Is just to realize who you truly are. Simple words, a lot of practice, can be complicated, but there's nothing to gain in this entire thing. It is just a matter of self-realization in your inner journey. Conscious death. Apart from dreamless sleep, which I mentioned already, there is one other involuntary portal. It opens up briefly at the time of physical death. Even if you have missed all the other opportunities for spiritual realization during your lifetime, one last portal will open up for you immediately after the body has died. There are countless accounts of people who had a visual impression of this portal as a radiant light and then returned from what is commonly known as near-death experiences. Many of them also spoke of a sense of blissful serenity and deep peace. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it is described as the luminous splendor of the colorless light of emptiness, which it says is your own true self. This portal opens up only very briefly, and unless you have already encountered the dimension of the unmanifested in your lifetime, you will likely miss it. Most people carry too much residual resistance, too much fear, too much attachment to sensory experience, too much identification with the manifested world. So they see the portal, turn away in fear, and then lose consciousness. Most of what happens after that is involuntary and automatic. Eventually, there will be another round of birth and death. Their presence wasn't strong enough yet for conscious immortality. So going through this portal does not mean annihilation. As with all the other portals, your radiant true nature remains, but not the personality. In any case, whatever is real or true value in your personality is your true nature shining through. This is never lost. Nothing that is of value, nothing that is real is ever lost. Approaching death and death itself, the dissolution of the physical form is always a great opportunity for spiritual realization. The opportunity is tragically missed most of the time, since we live in a culture that is almost totally ignorant of death, as it is almost totally ignorant of anything that truly matters. Every portal is a portal of death, the death of the false self. When you go through it, you cease to derive your identity from your psychological mind made form. You then realize that death is an illusion, just as your identification with form was an illusion. The end of illusion, that's all that death is. It is painfully, it is painful only as long as you dig into the illusion.